Hi, my name is Kara Pavelko, and I will be taking you through the IEP process. An overview of my presentation, we will discuss the Individualized Education Plan, the IEP, discussion of the steps in Connecticut's IEP process, and identification of members of the IEP team or PP team and their roles, and the components of the new IEP using Bethany's case study. The Individualized Education Plan, known as the IEP, it's developed to ensure that a child with a disability attending a public elementary or secondary educational institution receives FAPE, which is a free, appropriate public education with specialized instruction and related services if needed. Um, the IEP is created by a team of either parents, guardians, special education teachers, classroom teachers, and related service providers that aid in helping a child receive FAPE and to reach academic success. An IEP includes the following. It includes parental consent, which means the parent must consent to any evaluation being done. It has eligibility or a classification of a student or child's disability, all and any related services for which the child qualifies, the child's strengths, special considerations, all aspects of the student's academic plan, appropriate academic accommodations, the child's present levels of educational performance, and measurable annual goals and objectives. Of course, there will be assessments per trimester or on a monthly basis, informal assessments, but the annual goals and objectives still stand to meet Connecticut state standards. So Connecticut IEP process steps, and this is sort of a lengthy slide. So the process steps, although they go very quickly, there are many components to them. First, you have to have a referral, a pre-referral, and this can either be from a classroom teacher, physician, or if a child is in a birth to 3 program. In addition, the child could be um, in an RTI, or response to intervention program, where he or she receives special instruction in math or reading. And so those teachers would be the classroom teacher and the interventionist would most likely be the ones to really hone in on a child if they or exhibiting signs of a disability. Again, parental consent must be given by the student's parents prior to evaluation. Um, and the IEP it's a written document that is composed by the PP team, the planning and placement team. And again, these people, this group of individuals will consist of definitely a classroom teacher, special ed teacher, parents or guardians, a school administrator, most likely the principal, an individual who can interpret the evaluation data, or any service provider that is specifically needed to ensure FAPE. And this could be a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, physical therapist, or a school psychologist. And school psychologists generally will give the assessments, but there are some districts have evaluation specialists. And the school psychologist may invite the child to have a social group, social groups where they bring friends if they're having difficulties maintaining relationships, or if they're frustrated by, the process of engaging with peers. The district generally, I know in Connecticut, has about 45 days from evaluation to administer and assess a child's eligibility and to implement the IEP. There may be some wiggle room in between. There may be a pause, 10 days here or there, um, given communication lapses, or I believe it's 10 days, waiting for a parent to send back a consent form, or waiting for the district to send the parent a copy of the IEP. So that can go um, to about 60 days, given those time lapses, but generally it's 45. The PPT will meet to review the evaluation data, and that includes the parents. And the data will determine if a child has a disability, what that disability is or looks like. If the disability is impeding the child's education, and understanding of academic material, whether a child requires special education and related service, and what that education might look like, if he or she need to go into a small group instruction, etc. Um, in addition to what the least restrictive environment looks like for the child. You know, if the child is pulled out for specific instruction, small group instruction, how often, how long will they be pulled out, and with whom they will be working with. And there will also be evaluations within that small group instruction. And the PPT finally, they meet to discuss the placement, the final placement if the student is eligible for special services, and the provision of FAPE in the least restrictive environment, which I stated. And then the last is review and reevaluations. The PPT members, the planning and placement team members and their roles. The parents and guardian, they're a part of the child's IEP team, probably the most important part. The parents consent to evaluations, placements, and they're really the best advocate for their child or children. They see what's going on at home, and they know how their child interacts with peers, how he or she feels about school, and just their general behavior, which not only they can see at home, but how that translates into school. And on the other end, how the classroom teacher communicates with the parents about those behaviors in school. The classroom teacher, they're sort of like the the first responder. They provide informal and formal assessments and usually make the referral to special education or bring it to the attention of a interventionist or special education teacher. Generally, in some cases, the child, depending on the severity of the disability, if it is um, a learning disability like ADHD or dyslexia or something like that, there may be the student may go into small classroom instruction first, and then if that isn't helping, then that they may need to amend or add on to the child's IEP. The special education teacher usually develops the curriculum based on the student's individual needs. They also collaborate with the classroom teacher to deliver FAPE to the student. Um, and whether the student has a intellectual disability to ADHD, the spectrum of services is really quite different. So the special education teacher will will be the person to develop that curriculum. The school administrator, most likely the principal, he or she oversee the special education department. They understand the procedural safeguards, the expectation of the local education agencies, and can also touch base with those agencies for resources, etc. Additional service providers, if needed, based on the child's needs. As I mentioned earlier, they may require speech therapy, mental health counseling, occupational therapy, physical therapy, or may need a one-on-one paraprofessional. And so this would be decided within the PPT. And then the director of district assessments and or the school psychologist will administer mental health assessments. And they may issue the WISC, the Woodcock-Johnson, in addition to DIBELS. And both will interpret or be able to interpret the data and present it to the PPT. Okay, so we're looking here at the new IEP, and we're weaving Bethany's case into this new IEP. And this is the first part of the IEP. I will mention that I find this the new IEP, not that I have a ton of experience with it, and obviously in the future I will, but it seems to be more parent friendly. Parents are able to access their children's information with a simple code. And I mean, that is something that's awesome that they have that information right at their fingertips. And then again, multiple service providers can also access the IEP for the student. So again, the student's name, and this is all demographics, evaluation information, classification or primary disability, parent information, most recent review, case manager, and meeting date. So we know Bethany's current grade is 6, and she's 14 years old. And this is her most recent evaluation. This is her first IEP. And her parents, it says her parent information, her parents referred her. They are well aware of what is going on. And her next annual review, a review can take place annually. If the parents request it sooner, that is available to them too. So this is really the first, oh, and her state assigned student identification. So that would be all Bethany's information. Here would be the Bethany's planning and placement team. So again, according to the new IEP, so she would have her parents listed, her regular ed teacher, special ed teacher, I would say a school psychologist, depending if he or she, well, I definitely would say the school psychologist for assessment purposes, in addition to help with her learning frustrations and her anger issues that have occurred due to her fear of doing tough work. So speech language and social work would be a definite for her. Um, um, just in terms of counseling and kind of getting through um, her ability or inability to relate to her peers because she is more immature, emotionally immature. Her social emotional level isn't really up to par as her peers. And here would be the planning and placement team recommendations. And again, this next part, the special considerations, is really important. In the old IEP, this was something that was sort of hidden. It wasn't, um, you know, it wasn't one of the first things you see. So the state is sort of forcing you to see this now. I believe this is like one of the, yeah, this is the first or second page. Um, and this is very important, and specifically for submitting a behavioral plan. And I think this would be very appropriate for Bethany, again, with her immaturity in terms of her only being able to look at picture books with animals or loving animals or interested in Disney, and really not having much in common with her sixth grade peers, and being fearful of work. Again, that is something because she's not on grade level with her reading and her math. And she was very low. The special considerations that her parents might want to discuss with a special ed teacher is possibly putting in a behavioral intervention plan to help her with those specific behaviors, in addition to her anger as she starts learning, more challenging work. In here, present levels of academic achievement and annual goals and objectives. And this is very important. There are several goals and objectives in this part, but I just screenshot just a few. And I actually put in her strengths because I think that's very important. I said Bethany is a sweet girl who is eager to learn. She loves animals and Disney movies. So she enjoys reading about animals whenever possible. Um, so we can tell she is sweet, and her case study says that she is eager to learn. Some of the concerns and needs: Bethany's parents are concerned about her not meeting her social emotional goals and are concerned that she is immature for her age. Um, and then again, you would put the impact of a student's disability on involvement and progress in general education curriculum or appropriate activities. In this case, it's not preschool activities, but there may be obviously her inability or her um, performance under grade level is a concern for her. Her confidence, her being able to relate to her peers. So there are several goals, not only in terms of behavior, but of academics with her reading and math that would go under here, along with her assessment scores and so on, and where they would like to see her be academically. Um, and this portion here is um, transitioning planning. Bethany is 14, so in Connecticut, the you to get the transition planning in place, you'd be 16. But realistically, I believe that this should start at 14. Just because it's very difficult, when you're 16 years old, what, possibly a sophomore, and you have 2 more years, and there are a lot of transition assessments depending on your depending on the person's disability, their goals, their desires, their wants. They may need social skills training. Some students may want to go to college. There may be pre-college. Um, some local colleges have sort of pre-college where you can try college out. Like for instance, Avery Point, you can try it out and then get college credits for it. But there's really a lot that goes into transition. And then see, oh, the special education services or related services. And this may be so this is really the least restrictive environment page. I didn't take a screenshot of the entire thing, but this is just, how long is your child, how long would the student be in the least restrictive environment, which is the classroom with his or her peers? How long is the child out of the classroom for specialized instruction? Um, is the child, the frequency, what is the setting of the environment, um, and is the child um, spending appropriate time with his or her peers? And then really there's the service, the goal, frequency, the time. So for instance, Bethany, she may go to Wilson reading for a half an hour every single day because she has trouble with multisyllable words and decoding. So if she went, say every single day for 30 minutes at a time, so that's 5 days a week for 30 minutes. And then the staff, maybe she has a one-on-one, maybe she does not. The Wilson reading instructor, the start date, the end date, and then assessments, and the instructional delivery. Does she work on word families? Is she focusing on phonetic awareness and combining words, glued sounds, things of that nature? And how long does that take her out of instruction or fun activities with her peers? So, and then this slide, supplementary aids and services. So this may be, um, you know, maybe a student needs assistive technology, a wheelchair, may need the classroom modified, possibly need consultation, outside consultation, and may need a one-on-one paraprofessional, and these services may need to be provided for the duration of the IEP, if otherwise noted. Um, Oh, in addition, I'm not sure if I said this, but the student may need modifications in instructional delivery. For instance, with technology, he or she may need a reader or a headset, um, or they may need a wheelchair that, well, the school wouldn't provide that. That would be a medical need, but um, you know, they may need specific environmental changes to make their experience um, to make their experience. Ooh, sorry, I can't talk here. To make their experience better and in line with. Okay, and indirect services, and this may be, uh, are supports required for school personnel to implement the IEP. The supports could be, again, um, they could be service providers, outside, maybe a nurse, um, or someone who maybe does know sign language, things of that nature. And then there's the ESY services. Most students, which is the extended school year services, most students who are on an IEP will get invited to the extended school year services. Um, they're not required to receive FAPE, but they are an extension of the school year, which is free to the students and just helps enrich or help them where a gap may occur over the summer. In addition, students who are intellectually disabled or medically disabled are also and are on an IEP are encouraged to use ESY services. Okay. And this is the removal from general education environment. And I believe I forgot to mention transportation. Transportation is a related service. Some kids, well, most children, most students on an IEP are on a van and travel back and forth home to school and from school. Some of the kids have behavioral needs, and so they're taking a smaller bus. Some students have anxiety and feel safer on a smaller bus. And some students who are disabled physically need help, and there's an aide on the bus to help. So that is provided under the IDEA. Um, and then if you are, again, removal from the general education environment, which is the least restrictive environment, I may have skipped ahead. I apologize. And this is just the total hours a week. So the length of the school day, length of the school year, length of school day and total hours per week that the child is away from his or her peers. And this may be necessary. Some students who are intellectually and medically disabled are maybe just join their classmates for lunch and special like art, music, so on, recess. And then if there's a holiday, just fun activities, but they may be out of the classroom for hours per day. And that's just needed for their particular disability. But this is just to give the state an idea of what types of students, how long students are included in the least restrictive environment, which is always the way that you know the state would like it to be. They would like for students to be in the least restrictive environment as long as possible. Um, that and then this is the district and state testing. The English language proficiency assessment. So most of the district-wide assessments can be translated in 10 languages. And this should be available to all students within their preferred language. I'd say Bethany does not need this. And oh, uh, so the statewide assessments here, and I'd say for Bethany, she may need modifications due to her delayed reading and unable to her inability to decode words and being under grade level for reading and math, so she may need some accommodations on the statewide assessments. And again, these are the SAT, which she wouldn't be taking, the NGSS, and the Connecticut, she would, the alternate science assessment, and let's see. Oh, and the last slide is the transfer of rights. So if you are 18 years of age, you would be signing over a power of attorney possibly, and then would require documentation. Unfortunately here, which Bethany would not do, unfortunately here, there is not a way to say that you would, so if the student is living with the parents, there is not a way to say that the student or the child will be continuing living with the parents. It would not turn over power of attorney. So I found that to be interesting. But that is my presentation, and thank you for listening. Bye. Hi, I'm sorry, I am back. I just also wanted to say that there is a list of resources for parents from the state of Connecticut, procedural safeguards notice under the IDEA Part B, parental rights notification, and everything related to providing FAPE to students. And here is my reference page. Okay, thank you.